Welcome back. So basically this is going to be a very important session, and I am sure some of you have already taken your exam, and this is a request by CA Sri Lanka to conduct a session where they have identified specifically certain learning outcomes, LOs, which have been poorly performed by students, right. So therefore these few sessions, so this is going to be first out of those series, right. So this session will really help you to break the complexity away out of complex topics, and as you can see in the screen that we will be discussing these complex topics, especially this list has been identified, I am sure, by the exam division as difficult topics, and you can see 11 topics listed here: the audit committee, general principles of an audit, and I have mentioned certain things, the learning outcome number as well, financial statement assertions, risk assessment, materiality, fraud, business processes, ethics, subsequent event, written representation, and review engagement. So out of these 11 topics, basically this probably next 1 hour or maybe little more than 1 hour, I am going to cover one big topic where there are several learning outcomes mentioned as students have poorly performed. So therefore I am telling with you, this is a wonderful subject. One day I am sure all of you want to be a chartered accountant. When you become a chartered accountant, the knowledge that is imparted through this subject is going to immensely help you. So the reason, I am sure if you are not successful in this exam, perhaps you would have seen this as a difficult subject. This is not a difficult subject. I am telling you with confidence. During next 1 hour, if you learn certain fundamentals properly, you have to be brilliant with basics, right? If it is a house, if the foundation is stronger, answer in question is nothing. I will prove that. So this session, what I am going to do during next 1.5 hours, I will take you through certain, now my topics is going to be ethics, right, and ethics is, as I already mentioned, has been identified as one of the difficult topics where several learning outcomes students have poorly performed, right. Now for example, I will use certain words like deontological approach, teleological approach. The moment you see these words, never heard, like looks like Greek, deontological, teleological, right. Now these are very simple things. If you understand easily, you can easily answer. I am sure I am helping you to understand easily, right, that you can judge at the end of this video. So basically I am going to cover several things under ethics, but of which I will write down here two big things that we will discuss during next half an hour. The first thing that we are going to be mastered is ethical principles, right, and I am going to explain that in such a manner that you will never forget this, right. I am going to give you an analogy of a house. I am going to make these principles equal to the elements of a house so that you will never forget it, and then from there you are going to learn what is called conceptual framework approach. Conceptual framework approach to ethics, right. Again you will wonder what is conceptual framework approach. Remember, any questions in ethics in exam as well as in practice, this conceptual framework is a very powerful framework to decide how to handle a given ethical issue. That also we are going to study, and then in addition, I will be talking about how to handle ethical dilemma. So ethical issues, right. Ethical dilemma means, for example, accountant has been asked to manipulate books, right. We call cooking the books, right, change the numbers. That request is coming from your boss. Your boss may be CFO. Are you going to do that? Is it right? What is the course of action that you are going to follow? So your book or the syllabus talks about ethical conflict resolution, or another word is ethical dilemma, right. For that there are models like AAA model, right, introduced by American Accounting Association, that has 7 steps. All of these you are going to learn, and then, as you know, this is not a theory session as such, but then without theory, don't say, oh, what is this video, is it theory? I am telling you with confidence, over 15 years of experience in this subject, if you are not brilliant in theory, you are going to really, one is you should know the theory, which I call, always I see the success of students as three things: knowledge, right, application, and ability to write. So, fortunately in your paper, this third one you are not really worried, because most of your questions are MCQ, but again MCQs are very tricky sometimes, right. So, knowledge is you absolutely. Now, for example, if I ask you without looking any books, what do you mean by integrity? Integrity, is it honesty? If I give you a scenario, are you able to apply whether this is integrity or objectivity, right? That knowledge you are going to have during next few minutes. So, you have to have a knowledge. If a scenario is given, how are you going to apply? In this case, is it integrity or objectivity, right? So, that we are going to learn. So, basically that is a quick introduction to what we are going to do, and then I am not limiting this session to a theory talk, but I am going to give you live questions. When I show the question, you have to tick. I am going to give you, first time you are going to see some MCQs which I have done for this session, so which you can follow. So, let us start with ethical principles, right. So, before that I will take you through few slides so that you will see this is an interesting subject that is going to help you in your life as well as in the exam. Any subject if you take as a boring or complex subject, that is definitely going to be so. So, therefore, what you are going to see through the slides now is certain fundamentals, and after that we can go to those specific topics that I mentioned. So, when you look at this, the first question that I want to ask you, I will come back to this house, right. Now, when we talk about ethics, I always ask, as I told you, I am actually, my main subject is to teach auditing at subject like auditing at the last stage of chartered accountancy, strategic level, essentially corporate level, etc. But I would like to talk to you in particular, because you all are the entry point for this syllabus, right, and then for chartered accountancy as well. And when you learn these subjects much better, and in future for those subjects, it can be advanced auditing or any other paper like advanced business reporting, that this knowledge is going to definitely help you. You are going to be molded, right, as a brilliant student, right. So, therefore, always create an interest to learn something. So, the interest is here. You know, there are some people, they are doing well. You will see some of your friends, they are earning very well and they quickly get promotions and go up, right. They have a lot of money, right. But there are some people, they are very slowly climbing the career ladder. What is the secret? Now, remember, accountants are very often culprit in most fraud cases. Now, even you see, you have heard several names in Sri Lanka to overseas. For example, you see what happened at even in Sri Lanka, right? Cases like central bank case, you know, they are talking about bonds issue, and then various other cases like Golden Key, Pramukha Bank, etc. Now, remember, in any of this, for example, CIFL, in any of these companies, there is an accountant. When numbers are going to be fabricated, for example, profit is going to be overstated, normally request will come to accountant, right? Managing director will ask accountant, can't you release this provision? Can't you increase the profit? Don't give this information to auditor, right? Now, remember, one day you are going to be a chartered accountant, you are going to be branded as you are an ACA, right? Very powerful brand, a professional, and then at a point FCA, right? Remember, when you say you are ACA, there is much acceptance in the society and credibility, and if you have signed as a chartered accountant set of accounts of a listed company, that gives lot of confidence to other users. It may be bankers or anybody, that these accounts have been checked by a qualified chartered accountant. Therefore, certain expectations are there from you. So, in this slide, what I want to say, sometimes, right, your duties, for example, if your boss comes and tell you, right, son, come here, right? Look here, this is a very bad year for us. We haven't achieved our budgeted profit, right? And we need to somehow pass this entry or avoid this entry, right? Not to provide, say, for non-moving stocks, and make sure that auditors won't catch this. If this is the type of information or the request that comes to you from your boss, right, what are you going to do? Are you going to accept what your boss says? If you are going to accept what your boss says, you are thinking about your own job, right? That we call in ethics this word self-interest, right? You are thinking about your own job, your own promotion, right? But ideally, if you are an accountant or auditor, you know when there are slow moving stock, right, you have to exercise right judgment. Now you see the word that I use, judgment. Now in your mind you are exercising judgment, and that principle we talk as objectivity. Objectivity means without being affected by any pressure, how are you going to exercise? I write this word judgment. Now your judgment is, if there are slow moving stocks, you have to reduce the value of stocks that will affect the profit figure, right? And also you know that by agreeing to your boss, you are going to do something that is not right. So basically accounts are wrong, you are going to be part of wrong thing, and that is where your honesty or integrity is in questions. Now you see the example that I gave you, right? Your integrity and objectivity is in question. So what I wanted to give you in this explanation, now back to the slide. If you can do very well in your life, just because you are accepting whatever your boss says, a wrong thing, and do well, right, but then at a point, you know, sometimes you will end up being in the jail, right? Whereas there are another very sound accountant, you know, whether it's boss or MD or whoever, you are going to do only what is right. And there are enough people, brave people like that, and they can be recognized one day as highly respected people, and you can be very successful in your life. So with that, I take the entry for the session. Now one other thing, during next half an hour you will learn these 5 principles in a way that you will never forget it. Exam questions are going to be absolutely simple afterward. Now see this what is in the slide, a wonderful creature of the nature, and that is a turtle. What is the difference in turtle, right? If you compare with any other animal, if you keep a turtle in a deep sea or a land, right, irrespective of the place, turtle will roam in the same way, will not change, behavior will not change. Now out of this principle, right, I think his answer is there when you look at the slide, but what I want to say, out of these principles, what is the most important principle? When I say out of the principle, you know, these are the principles: integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality and professional behavior, right? So now the turtle, where is the turtle out of this? If you read the definition of these, now remember you are at level 1. Unfortunately, your subject is not open book, right? Now I am, for example, lecturing at strategic level, advanced business reporting subject, same topic, ethics. There it's open book. So therefore it's very important to practically understand the meaning of each of these principles. So integrity means being straightforward, right? You are a straightforward characters, right? Straightforward. Straightforward means whoever talks to you, you are who you are. You are not going to just change yourself based on the benefit that you are going to get or based on whom the request comes. You are who you are. You are going to do what is ought to be or what is right. You are not going to be of influence. So that's integrity, being honest and truthful. So therefore it's very important. I am going to show you in a little while from your study text all of these concepts we are going to master. So I think let's do that parallelly, and I want you now itself, as you watch this video, right, the most important thing when you are preparing for the exam is to make sure that you go through your study text also carefully, right. So, therefore, I will cover, because I spoke already about ethical principles, right. Let me to during next 15 minutes or little more to cover comprehensively meaning of these ethical principles, right. And then we will come to the second point that I listed, which is conceptual framework. When both are covered, I am going to test yourself by giving you some MCQs, right. So, let us look at these principles now, right. Now, first of all, let me to take you through this principle, right. Now, look at the slide or the study text. I am in chapter 11, right. In chapter 11, first thing is integrity. So, as I already mentioned to you, right, the meaning of integrity is, I think, yeah, let me to go to the correct page, that is this table, right. In page number, in the soft version is page number 319. So, when you look at this table, the first thing is you are going to understand meaning of this principle in a way that you will never forget. So, therefore, I recommend you to highlight these words with me, and after that I am going to do a quick exercise, mind exercise, where you will not you will never forget this principle. So, when we talk about integrity, the first thing that you must highlight is you are straightforward, like I mentioned to you, like a turtle, right. Roaming, you are straightforward and honest all your dealing. It can be business or professional dealing, but this has a meaning little beyond. I will mention to you, I also recommend you to make some notes with me, right. And in the interest of time, I am not going to write, so that we can do this session quickly. So, idea here is that integrity means you are straightforward and honest. So, what is the practical example that we can give to say that you maintain integrity, right. So, I will go back to whiteboard again, right. If you are saying that you maintain integrity, right, this you have to avoid. What? You will not prepare. That is very practical example. You will not prepare any document. You will not write any email. You will not pass any entry to cheat anybody, or any document that has incorrect information you will not associate yourself, right. Prepare any documents, right. You will not prepare any document, right. It can be anything, document, email, whatever, but, right, you will not prepare any document with false information, right, false or incorrect information. That is the practical application of integrity. In a case study, if they say that you are preparing something wrong because somebody has asked you to do, then you are violating integrity. So, remember the word straightforward. So, the next thing that I want to discuss is that let us take the example that there is a qualified chartered accountant, his name is Sunimal, right. I take Sunimal in my next explanation, and Sunimal here is, so generally Sunimal, let us say he is a young accountant, right, and usually he makes sure that he is straightforward and he does not change his behavior just because somebody tells something else, right, and also he makes sure that whatever documents, accounts that he prepare, it is true. So, that is called integrity, right. So, Sunimal maintain integrity. So, the next principle that I want to explain to you through Sunimal is objectivity, right. So, I consider integrity as the heart center, right, because without being honest you can't do anything. And the next thing that is going to shape you, nurture you as a chartered accountant is your ability to make right judgment. We can't talk accounting or auditing without the word professional judgment. For example, assessing the risk. What is materiality, right? All are judgment. Judgment means, okay, can you ask, somebody who is not educated person, right? Anybody can prepare accounts, with some knowledge but no idea about standards, right? So that person may not be able to exercise right judgment. Judgment means with your experience and knowledge, you are going to make a right decision. So therefore, the next one is objectivity. So please, I hope you are writing with me, right? Because I told you the first thing is to understand this principle very well, then you will not forget these sessions again. Objectivity means, in very simple words, are you exercising right judgment, right? Okay, let's look at from the definition again and come back to the whiteboard to Sunimal's example, right? So objectivity means, in this table you see, members shall not allow three things. One, bias. So I underline bias. Next, conflict of interest. So I underline that as well. And then undue influence of others, right? Those are the three things, and that should not override. Override means it should not affect professional judgment, right? Professional or business judgment. So let me, now this is useless to read this if you don't understand this through example, but now you can see the words that I have highlighted. I'll take the same example now. Here Sunimal, right? Now let's say Sunimal got a promotion, right? Now he has been appointed to tender board of the company, right? You know, tender board means you can make some decision as to which supplier should be selected. Let us say this company is a construction company, and they are usually giving this construction work to other suppliers, and they have called for suppliers to, to put up a huge building. So there are three companies, company A, B, C, and Sunimal is sitting in this board to select, which supplier we should select. Now, to select a supplier, which supplier is good, you need to really look at whether the supplier is a good company, have they done good work in the past, right, how reliable they are. Now, all of that you have to evaluate, right. Now, actually Sunimal is going to be, now Sunimal later realized, now in company B, they have applied for this, construction project. And there Mr. Pereira is the CEO, Mr. Pereira is running this company. Who is Mr. Pereira? That is father-in-law of Sunimal. Now, because it's father-in-law's company, now the question is whether Sunimal actually good company is company A, but Sunimal is likely to give this contract to father-in-law's company. If this is MCQ, what is the answer? Now, I told you, and the tender board, Sunimal is going to decide, right, what is the right company based on several criteria and exercise. What is the key word? Professional judgment. Now, professional judgment, what is the right company? Now, I said there are three things where this judgment may not be properly made. One is bias. In this case, is there a bias? Yes, because it's father-in-law's company. And secondly, is there a conflict of interest? Conflict, now understand these words, don't ever read a word if you don't know what the word is. Conflict of interest means, my job is accountant. Now you are going to, you are working for the company, right? And then selecting a supplier is company's business. But there you see, you also have an interest. Why? Because it's part of your family, extended family, right? Father-in-law means, so therefore there is a conflict of interest. Because Sunimal also has interest in that company. That is called conflict of interest. So in this case, there is a conflict of interest as well. And then the other thing which we don't know in this scenario, let's say if Sunimal is not going to give this to Mr. Pereira's company, he can't go in the evening because wife is putting lot of pressure. Why you didn't give this order to my father-in-law, right? So that is what? That is undue influence. In this case, who is going to influence? Spouse, right, undue influence. Now, I explained to you, taking a case study, quick example of objectivity, which you will never forget. Objectivity means accountant should avoid bias, conflict of interest or undue influence to affect his professional judgment. If there is any exam question where this judgment is going to be influenced by any of these sources, that's called objectivity, right. And at the same example, I want to explain these words, because without these words we can't learn conceptual framework approach. Now, in ethics we learn, please write threats. So, I will write prominently somewhere in the middle, right. You have to understand certain types of threats, right, threats. I am writing this word sassify, and you will wonder what is sassify, because these words must be at your fingertip. What is sassify? For example, now all threats we can use this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 threats. One is called self-interest. Again, I can go to the book and explain this, but let's try to use our time to the best of our ability, because every minute you watch something, you have to learn something, right. Self-interest means it's like, you know, their conflict of interest means there is some interest, like that. Self-interest means what is there for me? Is there something for my pocket? Then you are interested in that deal. That's called self-interest threat. Now, when there is a self-interest threat, even your objectivity is affected. You are going to be biased. Now, we can easily say in this tender evaluation, Sunimal is affected by self-interest threat. So, then what is self-interest threat? There is a financial interest. That means you have put money. Now, for example, if you have put money to father-in-law's company and you are going to get a commission, that is money, financial. The other one is a friendship, relationship, that you are interested in the deal and you forget your company and you are looking your pocket. That is self-interest, right. The other one in sassify is advocacy. Now, advocacy means, just remember this word, promoting you, right. As a chartered accountant, are you supposed to promote your company? Answer is yes. Take an auditor. Now, accountant, you may have to sometimes promote your company in ethical way, but if you take auditor, now see, audit partner, there is a legal case against the company. Just because that company he is auditing, he can't promote his client and try to protect the client. Then the threat is advocacy, right. Then there is self-review threat. Now, simple meaning of self-review threat is, now again is really going to affect your judgment. Now, see, there is an audit firm, they prepare accounts and audit. If you get involved in something that you are going to check that is called self-review threat, and that is where I said previous judgment is going to be reevaluated, right. So, judgment made by the same auditor, same firm, and then checked by another firm. There is another one called familiarity, right. Now, what is familiarity? Simply, now for each of these you may want to remember one word, right. Familiarity means you feel very sorry about that person, because again you have some connection, that is why you feel very sorry. Familiarity, the word is sympathy, right, sympathy. Now, what is, can you give an example of sympathy? Now, again good example is auditor. One audit partner is auditing one client for 20 years. So, managing director and the partner, they are like very close friends. Now, that partner, although he has to give a bad audit report, he does not want to annoy, upset the client because of this close relationship. That is familiarity. Now, in this my example, if you take Sunimal, Sunimal has a familiarity threat with, obviously there is a connection, right. The other word that I want to explain to you, this I is intimidation. You can see these words that I am writing, right, you can follow me. Now, you learn sassify within 5 minutes. Intimidation means what? You are being pressurized. Remember one word for each of these, because you can't memorize any of these, right. Now self-interest, what is in the pocket, right? What is there for you? Here I said advocacy means promoting, right? Self-review means you are doing something and checking by yourself. Familiarity means you feel sorry because you are connected. Intimidation means you are under pressure, you are pressurized. Right now, in my example, because this father-in-law's company, if you come to Sunimal has intimidation threat. Why? Because there can be intimidation threat. If Sunimal is not giving the contract to Mr. Pereira, now spouse, right? Spouse can, put a lot of pressure. Now we are going to divorce, for example, right? That's where this undue influence here is intimidation threat. Now, see, through this example, I hope you learn to some level, because I am going to get into question as well. I hope you learn to some extent, right? Now, what I explained to you is second principle of objectivity. At the same time, I explained to you SASFI briefly, right? Intimidation means pressure. So, do not forget SASFI, and because next half an hour, right, after this explanation I have covered only 2, after that we are going to go to conceptual framework and then exam questions, like exam type question I am going to take you through some questions, right. So, I covered now integrity and objectivity, right. So, let me clean this, because I will write that circle again here, right. So, what I wanted to say, as a chartered accountant, when we look at this principle, what is in the center? Integrity. What is integrity? Straightforward and honest, circle 1. And the next important thing is whether accountant is making right professional judgment, that is objectivity. And the third one, what is the third one? Now see, why you are called a qualified chartered accountant, ACA? Because you are distinguished from the rest as qualified. Why? What is that qualified means? These 2 things, professional competence and due care. Remember professional competence and due care. Again, I am going to give you an analysis on this. Let us now take remove Sunimal's example. Now, let us look at professional competence and due care in a way that you will never forget it, right. So, first of all, you have to understand these are 2 things. Professional competence is one thing, due care is another thing, right. Now, competence also we can break into 2. Please write. One is you attain the confidence. Attain means you get. Now, you can say professional competence relates to your qualification one day as a chartered accountant, right. Attain means you acquire chartered accountant qualification, ACA, because you have to pass all the exam to get that. Now, do not think that life is over after getting the qualification. In 2 years, you will be fully outdated, you are not a valuable person, because there are so many changes in standards, right. Regularly they are changing. Therefore, you need to keep yourself up to date. Not only attend, you have to attend seminars, read articles, learn new things, and that part is called maintain. Maintain your competence, right. Now, what is the word that we use? CPD. Please write. CPD means continuing professional development, right. CPD, you are learning, you are being up to date. Now, professional competence, if you are now, for example, you are working for a listed company, you are helping your financial controllers to prepare accounts, you are a qualified accountant. If you have professional competence, a job will be done, well done, right, because you are technically sound. Now, the due care means, now for example, in your company you are preparing accounts, every time you are saying, sorry sir, there is a mistake. Now, because of my mistake, trial balance is not balancing. Every time you are saying, you can't say that. Remember one word for all of this. When you say due care, the word is diligent. He is a diligent person, right. Diligent means you are attending to your work carefully, right. Very rarely you will make a mistake, no mistake, you are a diligent person, right. The other thing is when you can say, do you care? Now, if I ask you to prepare consolidated accounts, oh, can I ask A-level person who has no accounting understanding to prepare consolidated accounts? Difficult. Any piece of work chartered accountant does, there are standards to follow. So, when the respective standards are followed, that is also called due care. So, I hope you understood what is professional competence and due care, right. So, the next circle is going to be that. So, there are 3 circles now: integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care. And now, the other 2 parts I do not explain here, that is where I can go to the house example and cover. Now, let us look at what we learned from the book. And you can see due care, the things that I explained to you. One is continuing duty to, I think there is another section in your book that explains due care. If you read here, duty to maintain knowledge and skill at the level required to ensure. Now, when you are up to date, who is going to be benefited? Your company, your boss, right, is going to get a very good service because you are updated with the current development about the law, new standards, etc. And means second part, that is this part what I highlight now is called, see the word diligent. Diligence means doing something carefully and following the standards. So, that is called due care, right. Then I will explain these 2 separately, right. There is another part of your study text, see integrity here, being straightforward and honest, that we discuss. And then integrity also means that you are not going to involve in any false information or misleading information, or you are not going to hide anything, right. So, those things. And objectivity also we learn. Objectivity is all about when you make professional or business judgment, how are you going to do it fairly, right. And so, if it is an auditor, especially objectivity is relating to auditor's independence as well, right, and that is where they have given example of auditor. But now this, if you look at, this is what I just explained to you. Competence and due care has 2 things, right. One is, if you look at these headings, right, one is when you have this, you are able to provide competent services to your company. Second one, you have to be updated. This is what I mentioned to you, CPD, continuing development, professional development, so that you are up to date. And then I explained to you the word diligent. Diligent means you are doing something carefully, no mistakes, and due care is not take care, it is far beyond that. Due care means any work that you do, you are doing it carefully, and what is carefully here is that you are following the respective standards, that is very important. Now, let me to show you the house, right. Now, see this house. Why I have a house here? I am going to give you a very tough task. I think before that I may want to explain to you other 2 principles as well, so that you are very clear. So, what are the other 2 principles that we have to cover? One is a confidentiality and other one is a professional behavior. Now, for exam question, this confidentiality is also very, very important one, and is usually tested in the exam. And you can see in this table there are, this one, this is highly examinable. This is a famous question examiners, when confidential information can be released. Then the other one that I should explain to you is professional behavior. Now, let us explain those 2 also and come back to the house. Now, the house is to summarize everything. So, let us learn the balance 2 principle, the confidentiality and professional behavior. So, confidentiality, all of you know what does it mean. When you are a professional chartered accountant, you are not going to release company specific information to anybody. That is simply confidentiality. So, what is the big deal? But for the exam purpose, you should know something beyond that, right. Now, again, if you are Sunimal, right. Now, let us in this case we will take an auditor. That is because that is good example to take auditor. Why? Because auditor is usually having access to much confidential information, right. Now, in this case I am taking example of Vimal. Vimal is an audit senior of audit firm, right. Now, if you take Vimal, he has a lot of experience, right. Now, the question is, during an audit of a listed company, now see, I am really highlighting this word listed company because that company is important more than any other company. Why, you must know. Now, Vimal is an audit of a listed company. During the audit, he realizes that this company has not paid taxes. So, now we will take, we will take the example of tax. They maintain double books, you know, and then tax, no tax, they have not paid taxes, right. And later Inland Revenue Department file a case against this company. Let us say this is Star Limited, right, against Star Limited. Now, my question to you, can Vimal say, look here, when Inland Revenue Department or the court demands Vimal to disclose some information about this double book, can Vimal say, no, I can't release? No, Vimal is bound to release. That is where confidential information can be leaked or released, and therefore, remember, confidentiality means simply accountant is protecting, accountant audit is protecting company information, but there are few cases where confidential information can be released. So, what are those cases? One is, now you can, I will go back to the note, right. One is disclosure is permitted by law and authorized by the client. I highlighted, do not highlight or read anything if you do not understand, right. Permitted by law and authorized by the client. What does it means? Now, you have to disclose to somebody, you are asking your company, you know, even sometimes government people, they will ask company's accounts, so some company specific information, right. As long as your company says release, no problem, no, that first one is not a big deal. The second one, disclosure is required by law, right. Now, if there is a law that says you have to disclose, that is the end, you have to disclose. Good example is, remember this, please write, best example in Sri Lanka, Money Laundering Act of Sri Lanka. If you are aware about money, what is money? First of all, what is money laundering? Money laundering is what? Illegally earned money. Somebody is, you know, earn money, millions of money and pump into Sri Lanka from some illegal, you know, drug or terrorist, some money which is circulated to Sri Lanka. Now, if this money comes to your company and you are an accountant, remember there is a law in Sri Lanka. You have to inform this to central bank. You can't say I am a chartered accountant, confidentiality, no. So, therefore, underline required by law. Third one is required by law, right. Here in this case they say required by law to give documents or other evidence. Then where disclosure is required by law, next example, that's the same example they have given money laundering, right. And the other one is there is a professional duty or right to disclose. So, please write. The next one is, I can summarize all of that. Now, please write in your short note, confidentiality, what can be tested for exam, right. So, these are the cases where confidential information can be released. One is authorized by client for some purpose, authorized by client or the company. Client means if you are auditor, company means you are accountant. Second one is law says, like money laundering, you have to require, you have to disclose, required by law. Third one is you have a professional duty, right. Professional duty means, for example, chartered institute wants, you are an auditor, to see whether you have done the audit based on standards or something like that, then you have to disclose, right. There is a professional duty or professional right, duty or right, right. And then see, the required by law can come through act, or required by law can come through a legal case. So, for example, there is a tax case, and then you know, to understand that tax case, court wants you to disclose, then you have to give. So, do not ever forget these things. Now, we have learned all the principles. The last one is what? Professional behavior. That is where the brand of chartered accountant comes. You know, why chartered accountants are differentiated from the rest? Because they carry the brand of professional, right? If you are a professional, you have to behave like a professional. If I can ask you a question, right? As a professional, are you supposed to go to a party? Yes, go. Are you supposed to drink? That is your choice, whether you drink or not. After having a drink and heavily influenced by alcohol, if an accountant walk in four legs, what will happen? Everybody will say, hey, look here, that is chartered accountant, right? So, that discredit, what is the word? Discredit or tarnish or damage the good reputation of CA Sri Lanka. Avoid that. So, therefore, professional behavior means, right. So, I am not writing the full word in the interest of time, right. Big one, professional behavior means how you are seen to outsiders, because you are carrying the logo of or the brand of ACA. Therefore, avoid anything, what is the word, that bring discredit, or another word, tarnish or damage, what? Reputation, right? Whose reputation? The profession. What is your profession? Chartered accountancy or the chartered institute. So, that is this, right? And also, this is one thing. The other thing of professional behavior is you should never be guilty of violating laws. Always, you know, your behavior has to be legal. You follow laws and regulation. The other one is marketing. That, remember, when a chartered accountant markets some product, the professionalism is that you should not exaggerate. See these words? Exaggeration. Exaggeration means, now one chartered accountant is, audit firm is saying, we are the most successful audit firm on the earth. There is no other audit firm comparable. That is an exaggeration. You should not market in exaggeration manner. And there is another word they say, disparaging references, which means don't criticize others indirectly. Let me to find and show you that also, you will then see that. Now, what you can see on the screen, professional behavior means comply with laws and regulation. I mentioned to you this, and avoid anything that bring discredit or disrepute to the profession. So, I hope you understood that. An accountant who work in practice honest and truthful, and especially advertising. Now, this is what I mentioned in advertisement, right? They should not bring the profession into disrepute. This is the word that I mentioned, exaggerated claims. Now, please write example of exaggerated claim, right? We are the most successful technology driven, right? The most you are giving, we are the, our firm has most highly qualified people, exaggerated claim. The other word that I use is disparaging references or unsubstantiated. Now, imagine if you just read these books without any understanding these words like Greek, and you will not read and you will see ethics is a difficult topic. Obviously, this is why in the last exam students have got low marks for this, right. So, remember these words. Now, with my explanation, I hope you have written these words. When you say, for example, professional behavior, right, what you should know is all these words, right. What are the words? Professional behavior means you should not avoid anything which bring the professional discredit or disrepute the name, right. That is one thing we learn. The other thing is laws and regulation. The other thing that I explained to you now, advertising, avoid exaggeration. Right? In Sinhalese we call atishoktiyen kiyanawa, right. I am the best, right, exaggeration. Then the other one is disparaging references to unsubstantiated. That word if you do not know, please write down and understand, right. Disparaging references. What is that? Disparaging references means you are indirectly criticizing someone else, right? Or another word they say, unsubstantiated comparison. Unsubstantiated comparison. Now, what is substantiated means measurable. Unsubstantiated means can't measure. Now, see this word, disparaging references, which means, can please write example. If some audit firm says, right, we are the most technology driven audit firm in Sri Lanka, and there is no firm which is comparable to us. Now, which means indirectly you are saying others are bad, you are good. That is the disparaging references. Another firm says we are the most sought after firm in Sri Lanka. Now, the word most sought after, can you quantify? How many people came behind that firm? We do not know. There is no number. If one firm says we have more than 5,000 clients, that is substantiated claim. I hope you understood now. Now is the time to get to the house. Right now, if I draw a house, I am challenging you, and of course, I can give you a prize, but I can't give you now a prize. But let us see if you understood this. Now, this is the ability of a creative student. Now, we call this analogy. What is analogy? Right? Or metaphor. What is analogy or metaphor? You apply some theory to a real world. Now, see, this is a bottle. Now, I can say, can I explain ethics using this bottle? Now, that is an analogy. Now, I do not take a bottle, I take a house now. And all the principles that you learn, of course, I am very bad in drawing, therefore, I will just draw and show in the slide a nice house, right. Now, see, this is a house, okay. I do not know whether it looks like a house. Okay. Now, underneath there is a big part which is underneath, and you know what is that. And then if this is you have to build, you have to put a slab and add more and more, and these are like beams of the house, and you know inside there are steels going in, right. And then you can also see there is a wall in this house, right, that is to kind of protect. And now, if I ask you this question, this is the foundation, right, and I put 1 here, and this is the wall, I put 2 there, and then I put this inside. There are steel bars which give strength to the house, and there is a roof here, and then there is a wall here, 5. Sorry, I will put this is 4 wall, right, and this 5 is roof, and also there is another thing. I will tell you what it is after explaining 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you tell me, if this is a house, out of this principle that we learned, where is the principle of integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, and then confidentiality and professional behavior, right? Now, how do you take the analogy of a house and apply principle to the house? If you are a brilliant chartered accountant in terms of ethics, what is the foundation, backbone? That is, you have to be straightforward and honest. That is the foundation. Without that, all the knowledge that you have is useless, right? There are very knowledgeable people in the jail. If I do ethics session in detail, I can show you business leaders in jail for 25 years, right? So, integrity is here. The sorry, this is not the wall, right? The integrity is, I have to write in number 1, foundation, integrity, right? Then, now you are rising as a house, rising, and that is your professional competence and due care, right? And then, now although you are qualified and you know the standard, unfortunately, when it comes to decision, you do not follow the standard, which means your real strength comes when you are an unbiased person, and that steel bar here is objectivity, right? And then I said there is a wall, and what is happening in the house, keep it inside the house, and that is confidentiality, right. And then I am challenging you, what is the roof of the house, right. Everybody inside the house, it gives the protection. And remember, the fact that you are a chartered accountant means you are giving protection to whoever who get your service. And don't ever forget that. Please write in your note this word, and that is called public interest. The whole purpose of the reason why accountancy profession is different from any other profession is public interest. Please write, public interest means you are not thinking about your boss in a listed company. You are thinking about, imagine now I heard a company, like CIFL, very often in the newspaper, now depositors. Now I saw in some newspapers, some depositors getting heart attack because they can't recover their money, company is in trouble. Now if look at the job of accountants or auditors, they have to highlight these issues. If you are satisfied in your company, you are cheating public. Because public recognize chartered accountant as, reliable people when they sign something that is right. So therefore, please write, public interest means collective well-being of the society of people, right. Professional accountants serve, what is the word? Collective well-being, together, collective well-being of the society of people accountants serve. Very, very important. Now I think there is good knowledge about theory, and let's take some question, and then I can come to conceptual framework, and then to some extent we can wrap up this session some extent, right. So now I think now like I said, because I understand this is a fairly students see this as a difficult subject, ethics, but this is a wonderful subject. I hope you remember the house, right. And now no point of just listening to me and learning theory if you can't answer exam question. Now that is why I am going to test your knowledge, MCQs, exam type. Now I will show you few questions, right. Let's see. I skip first question because that I will show you in a little while. Question number 2. Please read. Now think you are now in the exam and answer this question in 2 minutes. I give you time to read. You are the accountant of Trust Bank PLC, right? The bank has undergone a financial turmoil and has deviated from some significant regulatory requirements such as single borrower limits. That means one person, there is a limit, bank can give loan, they have violated these rules, and central bank is very tough for this type of violation. You have been advised by the CFO to prepare monthly returns and financial information to bank supervision division as if the bank has complied with all the regulation, which means you are going to give wrong information to central bank. Now what is which is the key ethical principle that you are likely to violate? Now remember, if you learn what I explained to you properly, what is the answer? Within a few seconds answer right, and 100% your answer is correct. In this case, you are going to associate with some report which is wrong. The answer is integrity, right. Okay. If you got it right, good. Let us look at another question. Now these are brand new question, which I did very recently, not past papers or anything, right. But exam questions, if I am examiner, this is how I would test, give question, and these are likely exam standard question. Let me to show you another question, right. Now this is again a good question. During an audit, you noted, now you are an auditor, you have noted $100 million was credited to director's current account. Audit senior highlighted this transaction as a suspicious financial transaction, suspicious transaction like money laundering, no. However, when this was brought to the notice of audit manager, he pointed out that this appears to be a confidential transaction and we are bound to preserve the confidentiality of the client. Now manager says, no, don't tell this to anybody, this is confidential. Now you know very clearly confidentiality is violated or not. Which one of the below represent the incorrect statement regarding the above scenarios? Now, scenario 1, auditor is bound to protect the confidential information of the client and should not release confidential information under any circumstances, definitely it's wrong, right? Because there are cases where you release the confidential information. One is wrong. Secondly, confidential information could be disclosed to the appropriate public authorities of infringement of law that come to light. Is that the right thing? Okay, let us read, if you know for a fact what is the correct answer now, whether 2 is the correct answer or not, right. Now, in this scenario, what is the correct, correctly represent the scenario. If you look at third one, confidentiality information could be disclosed to produce documents of evidence in the, now in this case there is no legal case going on, not applicable, right. Confidential information should be disclosed to comply with qualitative assessment. Now, if I am doing the exam, I do not even read 3 and 4 because I am 100% sure, okay, but you can quickly read all 4 and select the answer. I am 100% sure answer is 2. Why? Because in this case we know there is a money laundering law and infringement means kind of violation of law, right. There is a money laundering law. If there is a violation, there you got to, report it. So, that is the answer, right. That is how, if you are brilliant with theory, that is how you can, give answers. Now, I will go back very quickly to another important theory part that you must know. Please write in your book, that is law, ethics and morality, right. Now, these things you must know very well, law, ethics and morality, right. Now, first of all, have a very simple understanding. I do not need to tell you what law means. Law is law, right. Law means, it is a law approved by parliament. If somebody violates law, there are consequences, right. Now, ethics are not really law, but we know ethics is usually, if you are a member of a professional body, your behavior is governed by ethics, is a simple example. Now, what is the word morality? Look up the dictionary, morality. Remember, very easy way of explaining ethics, the word morality is the word right and wrong. Remember that, right. So, morality is concerned with what is right and wrong. So, therefore, please write in your book, you are going to learn what is law, what is morality, right, and what is ethics, and also what is values. Is there any connection, values and morality or values and ethics? And also after that we will learn ethical theories. In few minutes, I can explain this even in 2 minutes, but let us take little more because you have to understand what are these 2 line of thinking called deontology, right. Deontological approach to ethics and teleological approach. Deontology versus teleology, right. So, now see this slide now. Ethics is about, now they use in ethics also moral principle, right, that governs person behavior, right, and serve as a code of conduct. So, ethics is similar to moral, but remember it is applied in the context of a professional body or professional, and to talk about some kind of a setting like a profession. It is also something to do with right and wrong. But if you take morality, the key word, everything, remember key word, right. Morality means what? Right and wrong. What is right, what is wrong? And as an individual for you, what is right, what is wrong? That is called morality. Now, you can read in the slide also, right. Moras, right. Noun, an individual principle concerning what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, and that is morality, right. And now, I think that is also important to, I can even connect now itself to deontology and teleology, right. Now, how do you decide what is right and what is wrong? For you, what is right and what is wrong depends on whether you are thinking based on deontological approach or a teleological approach, and that is the way you connect. Now I will ask you a question. Now you think about your religion. For example, you can be a Buddhist, then there is a 5 precepts, right, in Catholic, and there is 10 commandments. Now take 5 precepts for example, right. Now does it say a person, right, should not kill an animal or any living being? Now is it applied always? So sometimes you can say, now I can kill him because I am killing him to protect somebody, and you make a case to justify, right. You are doing anything and make a case for justify because you are doing it for someone else's benefit. Now I am also explaining to you not only morality. Morality means what is right and wrong. I am asking you, how do you decide what is right and wrong? That depends on whether you are deontology and teleology. What is deontology? Remember this deontology, deon is coming from the Greek word deon, right. Deon means, again you will never forget this, deon means there is a duty to do always correct things, right. There is a duty to do right thing, correct thing, always, always, all the time. For example, not telling lies, even if you die you will not lie, and that is called deontology. Whereas teleology means your act depends on the consequence. Now this can easily be tested in MCQs, right. Examiner can test MCQ in 10 different ways, but if you know this one principle, all 10 questions you will answer. Teleology means what you are going to do depends on the consequence, which means you are going to lie now. Generally you do not lie, but now if I lie, I am going to get my bonus. Oh, I am going to help somebody, then you see based on the consequences you are justifying your act based on the consequences, right. Whereas deontology means you are doing the right thing based on your ethical principles, based on your morality, and you don't think, don't consider consequence, that is all. Now did you learn that? That is a big point that you learn now. Deontology means doing the right thing without the consequence, very simple, right. Teleology means whether you right or not, you judge based on the consequence. I am going to lie because lying is helping somebody. If you think like that, that is teleology. Deontology means you will never lie, that is it, right. So then, now see how examiner can give a MCQ from this. Now this is MCQ, you can write down now. Now the question is, you are an accountant of a now I will use that same, okay, let us take a different example, right. There is a pharmaceutical company called Gamma Pharmaceutical Company, right. And being the chartered accountant, you know this company is violating laws, right. And then are you violating laws means this can be very serious case, you know, whether they violate law in such a manner that some of the pharmaceutical products are produced in a manner that is harmful for human body, very serious, and you know entire public is going to be affected, then you are thinking the public interest, right. If you think the, now MCQ is this, right, based on the requirement of confidentiality principle, right, should, let us say he is Sunimal again, should Sunimal disclose this case to regulators? If you think, what is the applied principle, is it deontology or teleology? In deontological angle, we can say accountant should always protect confidentiality, there is a duty always, but it is not the always. There are some situation by looking at the consequences, you will want to highlight this, because you know if you do not highlight this, the entire public is going to suffer, then you will take a teleological approach. That is, I hope I covered now deontology and teleology as well, good. And then this slide also helps you to understand if you come back to the slide, morality is based on the personal value as to what is right and wrong. And another thing that you will learn is what is value. Remember, value means, value usually influence, value is your values are different from my values. It's deeply rooted. Have you seen an iceberg? What is visible to others is behavior, and you are who you are because something hidden in you and that others can't see, and that is an iceberg that you can see in this slide. Now, if you take iceberg and see your belief, values, all that is hidden, and what is seen is the behavior. So, therefore, values, personal values and belief are influencing what is right and wrong. So, that is what is in your study text as well. Values are individual belief about what is right and wrong. So, what you can understand now, based on the values, what is right and wrong is going to be affected, right? And then we know how to think right and wrong based on the approach that we take, deontology or teleology, right? So, now another thing I want to cover, this principle I already explained to you in the slide that you can see, professionalism, the public interest. What is public interest? Collective well-being of the society of people accountant is supposed to take care of, right? And then there can be another very important examinable point is that why ethics are important for accountant. Now, there is a slide which you will see in the screen, but forget the slide. Now, I mentioned to you as an accountant why ethics are important for you. If you think top of the head, what comes to your mind? Number one, you have to follow laws and regulations, right? For that matter, you have to follow ethics, because if you do not follow ethics, sometimes you may engage in illegal behavior. Laws and regulations. The most important other thing is what? Public interest, because if you are ethical, the entire public is going to be benefited, right. So, likewise there are other advantages. Now, let us look at it. Now, one, I am taking this from the study text, and it is very, very important for you to know what is in the study text, and I can even open study text and show you, but look at from this slide. Ethics are important because one is laws and regulations, it connects to laws and regulation. The other one is the profession requires member to conduct themselves in a manner that affect that does not tarnish or damage the reputation, keyword here reputation. And the third thing that I explained to you, public interest. Fourth thing is, if you do something unethical, you are going to be end up in jail. And then accountants employ, especially if you are in public sector, this will help for tax protection reason as well. And then if you take accounting ethics, especially there are three areas mentioned in your study text. One is you have to maintain your accounts in a more reliable manner, right. The other one is some works that you do are very technical, preparation of tax returns, following certain standards, specialized work, and those works, if you are ethical, you will ensure they are properly done. And remember, why everybody coming behind accountant? Because accountants are handling cash as well as payments, and then accountants deal with numbers, financial reporting. Everybody in a company is interested about profit. So, this is also something very important. Now, before I conclude, let me to conclude this session, we have to still at the start of the lecture I put three topics. One is principle, the other one that you are going to learn now is conceptual framework approach. Please write, that is a very, very important topic. And then for that purpose, I will give you 2-3 scenario and ask you to apply conceptual framework approach. The first thing is for you to study what are the 3 things, there is no fourth thing in conceptual framework approach, right. There are 3 important things. What are the 3 things? One is we already learned, and that is called principle, right. Now, as I now you can see this slide carefully, right. Now, what you can see in the screen, 3 things. One, in the left side, ethical principle, and in the left side you can see threats, and that we have learned, sassify. In the middle you can see 5 principles that we learn, and don't forget that house, and then right side you see how do we address, and that is safeguards, right. So, now before I go to the whiteboard and take few scenarios with you, I want to show you this slide, which is also there in your study text, as the meaning of threats. And please, when you watch the video, if you don't have the book, at least go and later highlight these words, and I already emphasized this word. Self-interest means financial. What is there for your pocket I mentioned, right. So, these keywords, please notice them. Financial or other interest, that will affect your judgment, and self-review threat, I said you are doing and checking. So, that is where result of previous judgment you are evaluating. Advocacy means I use the word promoting, remember that. Familiarity, I said the word sympathy, right. Why there is a sympathy? You have a very close relationship. The last one is pressure, intimidation. We learn all of this, right. Now, I think now is the time for us to take few scenarios and apply conceptual framework approach, and I want you to write down this scenario. Right now, I take my today's session person Sunimal, right, here, and in this case Sunimal, let us say Sunimal is accountant of an company, right, and I am giving you 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, the question is, please write the question, apply conceptual framework approach. Apply conceptual framework approach. Right, and I am telling you, in conceptual framework approach there are 3 steps which I will write here. One is you identify threats, and you already know what are those types of threats which I mentioned as sassify. Second one, you evaluate how big that threat, evaluate means you kind of measure it, right, evaluate the threats, is it big? And the third one is, if there is a threat, how to remove that, and that is safeguard, right, how to reduce the threat, right. For example, we know that pandemic corona is everywhere, right, and we know the threat, and we know the danger that it is our life. So, the safeguard is to wear a face mask, right. Likewise, you have to identify. Now, there are so many threats in COVID, right. Now, if you go out, there is a threat. If there is a party, there is a threat. Now, where the threat is very high, right, going to a shop or going to a party with lot of people, party, right. So, then what is the safeguard? Don't go to the party, stay at home. That is very simple, right. So, that is how in the same way we apply ethical principle. Now, let us take a question, I mean exam type question, right. Apply conceptual framework approach in this scenario, right. Now, I will give you scenario 1, that is Sunimal. Sunimal has a bonus in this company. There is a bonus scheme where he can get up to, you see Sunimal's salary is 750,000, right, and this company usually, if the year end is good, profit is good, he gets up to 6 months bonus. Now, imagine to earn 6 months salary, to get 6 months salary in 1 month is a big thing, right. Now, there is a scenario where Sunimal's boss, that is Pial, now Pial knows that the company, Pial knows that the company has not done well, and Pial request Sunimal, I take the same early example, right? Not to provide for non-moving stocks, right? Now, I am asking you in this scenario, identify threats. Now, we know these are the threats, SASFI, which one is applicable out of SASFI? Now, I said your pocket 75,000 into 6, right? Now, my bonus, if I also not provide, not only I am listening to my boss and pleasing my boss, I am going to get my bonus, and that is going to affect your mind, right? Self-interest threat, you have to identify not only the threat, right? Identify threats to, now I have to complete this word, identify threats to the principle, right? Applicable principle. Now, in this case, what is the principle? The main principle Sunimal is going to violate. There is a self-interest threat where in his mind he make a professional judgment about what is the right provision for inventory that is going to be affected by some pressure or some interest, and that is, right, objectivity, right? Did you understand? In the scenario 1, there is a self-interest threat to objectivity, right? Now, we have to evaluate, is it a big threat? Yes. This is, here you have to decide, is it significant or no? Now, answer is it is significant. Why it is significant? Because the bonus is very significant and compared to his income, this is a big amount. What is the safeguard? Now, in this case, if the threat is very significant, now the main safeguard him is to say no, right? And also I am taking, I hope you understood that scenario, and because in the interest of time, I want to make sure every minute in this video you learn. And remember, another big topic, please write ethical conflict resolution. When you face a conflict, now I actually conceptual framework approach means this, right? You identify threat, in this case threat is self-interest, that is his bonus which will affect the objectivity, and then we identify that the threat is very significant. What is the safeguard is, don't do that, right? See, there are safeguards, I will explain to you what is the meaning of safeguards in a little while, right? Or let me to complete that also. Safeguard tell you what you should do, right? And remember, there are normally two safeguards. One is called safeguards created by the profession. Your profession is CA Sri Lanka, right? Or chartered accountancy. They have also created some safeguards. The other safeguard is safeguard applied in your workplace, work environment. Now, this is, I am talking ethics for accountants, not for auditors, right? Even if you take auditors, we call still in the work environment, right? Now, safeguard created by profession, what Chartered Institute has done to make sure you follow ethical standard. One is, right, they have issued ethical, now one is, now even this video is a safeguard because you are going to learn what is ethical and what is not ethical, right? That is ethical education. Right, ethical education, and then CPD programs, and there are standards, all of that, laws and regulation, these are safeguards where you know what is right, what is wrong. The other safeguards involved in your company, what are the safeguards? For example, if there is a bonus, if there are very significant bonus like this, accountants may do wrong thing, no, therefore there are corporate governance practices in company where they look at whether we have to really give profit driven bonus to accountant, like that you can decide whether these things are done. That is the example from accounting angle. I will take a very simple example from audit angle, very simple, right? That is the auditor. Now, this will take another, this person's name is, let us say Nimal. Now, Nimal is auditing a mobile company, right? They are distributing mobile phones, and he is attending a stock count, and after the stock count there are a lot of differences in the stock count, lot of issues, and this company's accountant is offering the latest iPhone to the auditor Nimal, right? And Nimal, you know, is it ethical to take a gift from a client? He is going to get latest iPhone. Now this is what ethics book says. Now let's apply conceptual framework approach. Now the phone is self-interest threat, and during the stock count he identified a lot of issues in his mind, judgment, see the word judgment. He knows something wrong, he wants to highlight, but he is not highlighting because he got the iPhone. So therefore there is a self-interest threat to objectivity, and threat is very high. Why? The iPhone is valuable. Therefore ethics book says, ethics says, you don't take gift as an auditor which are significant. Now in this case we can say, obviously if Nimal is a trainee, latest iPhone is significant, right? The safeguard is what? Education says, okay, book says you can't take significant book, but significant gift. Work environment in audit firm, remember they give lot of training to staff to make sure that those staff understand that taking gift is not right, and audit firm also has policies, procedures where if somebody has taken gift and they will take some action, disciplinary action. Those are the safeguards taken by the audit firm. Those safeguards are called work environment. And I said I am also going to cover another concept with this, another topic with this. So please write handling ethical conflict, ethical dilemma or conflict. That is where I said there is something called AAA approach, American Accounting Association approach, and those are very simple thing, right? Very simple thing. Don't worry about American accounting, you think about the purpose, right? Ethical conflict. And I will also show you this slide where you can easily relate this to. Diagram, right? Now see, you are wondering what to do. Ethical dilemma. Why it is called ABCD? Right? ABCD. A wants B to do C, which violate D. Right? A means boss. Boss is the CFO. CFO tell you are Sunimal. Do C means don't provide for stock. Slow moving stock, right? And if you do C, you are violating D. D is ethical principle. What is the ethical principle? That you a judgment, right? We know objective, you are going to be biased because of your bonus, right? Objectivity. So AAA approach gives these 7 steps. When you are thinking what to do, dilemma, what should I do? Am I going to listen to my boss and not to provide? Or that I am going to tell my boss, look at, we are a listed company, right? And then we have taken bank loan. If the profit figure is wrong, everybody is going to be cheated. I am not going to do what you say. And then Nimal will lose his job. Sorry, not Nimal, Sunimal. Okay, boss will say, of course, Puta, you don't know how to do business. You find another job. So he will lose his job, right? So now that is where AAA approach helps you to ask 7 questions. And let's answer this question now. You have to identify the issue, identify what the issue is. I can also put these steps in the slide so that you see them and we can reduce this time. Now see the 7 questions, right? The first question is issue, what are the facts in the case? The facts is that Sunimal has been asked not to provide for stocks. Is there an ethical issue? Yes. There is ethical issue. Ethical issue is that this may result in incorrect provision and stocks being not valued at NRV, lower of the cost of NRV if there are slow moving stocks. And step 3 says, out of the 7 steps, what is the principle that is affected in this case? And I already said the principle is objectivity, right? And step 4 says what are the alternative course that you can follow, right. Okay, well, you have two options, right. Okay, now your boss is asking what you can do, say yes to boss. Okay, boss, I will not provide, right, and overstate the profit, or say no to boss. Those are the options that you have. And then as a chartered accountant, what is the best option to say? Remember the quality of being straightforward. Whether your boss or anybody, you will say no. If that is best option, is probably to say no, right. So best, that is number 5. You can also see these steps in the slide, right. Best course of action is number 5, and number 6, what are the consequences of each possible action. If you say yes to the company, profit will increase, bankers and everybody will be cheated. And then if you say no to the boss, the profit is the correct profit and you may lose your job, but what is the decision you are going to most likely to take is to do the right thing. These are the 7 steps. So remember, this is in the study text and it's important that you go through and understand this area. So I covered with that triple A approach. I think now we are able to take few more MCQs, so that you have learned really what you are supposed to learn. Now let us see, take few more questions, right. Because otherwise I do not want to make this session theory, but I thought of spending some time so that you will never forget ethics and understand. Now see this question, what is the correct statement regarding law, ethics and morality, right. Now you have to read out of this 4, what is the correct statement. Ethical standards cannot go beyond the, sorry, there is a typo mistake there, it should be requirement. Ethical standards cannot go beyond the requirement of law. Is that correct? Now MCQ means you can follow elimination approach, right. Wrong answers wrong. Now ethical standards can really go beyond the law, because law, remember, law only says the minimum behavior, right. To be ethical, you will go beyond the law and do something. For example, sometimes paying on time to suppliers, company will say in their ethical code this is what it is, but law doesn't say you have to exactly pay on the same day. And then professional codes are based on moral judgment that should be exercised under different circumstances, right. Is that correct? Because remember, we learn moral judgment. Now see, this is a very sharp question, right. Now see, moral judgment is something specific to individuals, but when we say professional codes, is it individual or a profession? It will reflect a profession, right. Now the third answer is correct, because we know morality is the personal belief as an individual, what I consider right and wrong. So therefore correct answer is 3, right. So I hope you understand that. And then we went through question number 2, and then question number 3 is another question where you can apply. I think we answered this question. Remember, you are the accountant of the bank, and now the central bank company is publishing incorrect information, and the principle that is going to be violated is integrity, right. And then there is a question 3 which is relating to the same scenario, and now you can read that. Assume in the above question you have refused the request to prepare monthly returns. Now you are saying no to CFO. Now we applied even 7 steps approach, right. Even ethical conflict, you decided to say no, and then CFO warned that you are going to lose your job and asking again to do, and then what is the principle you are going to violate? And I said, when there is a pressure, and the answer is intimidation, right. So I hope this question also we went through, and now I think we have covered most of what we should learn, and I think you learn a lot. But before I finish, I want to make sure that this part is 15% of your syllabus. It's a sizable amount. Let's make sure that in your study text, what is critical you have gone through, right. Spend few minutes on that, and please open your study text. If you are at home, you can also open your hard copy of the book, and why don't you highlight some of these things, and let us see the coverage that I have given during taking more than definitely 1 hour, because this is such an important session, right. And as you can see, we differentiated law, ethics and morality, and when we say law, this is a revision, right, this is 5 to 10 minutes revision to capture entire chapter, right. And I think at the end of this chapter there is a part of engagement letter, that is another area students have poorly performed, right. So, we know law set the minimum standard of behavior, that is the key word, but when it comes to morality, it is the right and wrong based on the personal judgment that we learn, and then the value is something that is based on the personal values, right, and personal values are based on the belief about what is right and wrong, what is desirable and what is not desirable, and then based on the values people make some decision. Then, but when it comes to ethics, we learn it represent the behavior about how people should conduct themselves. The key word is behavior, and usually it associates with professional body, and ethics go beyond the law. Now remember, there was a MCQ whether ethics goes beyond the law, yes. And then there are various ethical code, there are company code, CA Sri Lanka code, IFAC code and so on. And then we learn the difference between ethics, law and morality, and that I do not need to now highlight, right. So, there are here example of what is morality and ethics. For example, here there is a nephew to take care of that, there is no law to help the nephew to take to orphanage, but but in this case you will see this is not a legal requirement, but is ethical to support. Likewise, I do not need to go through that table. Now, why ethics are important for accountant? We went through these reasons. One is laws and regulation, and then accountants should conduct themselves to make sure the reputation of the profession. Now, see, when you study, make sure these keywords are underlined, laws and regulation, and then the public interest that we learn today, and then if you do not follow ethics, the disciplinary actions are taken, and then this is if you are in public sector, it affects the taxpayers, right, and then there are different aspects of accountants work as an ethical requirement to make sure the reported numbers are right in the accounts, and then when accountants do technical work like taxation, it is important that the answer has to be correct, otherwise that decisions are going to be wrong made based on those work, and accountants are dealing with money. And then I actually do not need to highlight these 5 principles, we explain in much detail, and then we learned about this principle, and all of this we learn, and especially if you are in audit firm, how this is applied, but that also I explained to you, take in example. Confidentiality we discuss in much detail, all of this, and then these threats we went through, and this one is safeguard part we have to this part also I covered, but I want to emphasize that safeguard created by the institute, the education training that you get, and the continuing professional standards, everything, but there are safeguards in the work environment, like I said, at the work. For example, see, if the same audit partner has been auditing the company for 10 years, the best rotation within the company is to rotate the audit partner and have a new partner. And in addition, there are various quality check. Remember, I can give you another good example, right. Now, in an audit firm, for example, the quality control makes sure that if auditor think that partner is biased, right, then especially in listed company, there is a second partner who will check the first partner and audit team's work. And I explained to you the meaning of conflict of interest, taking that example of head of procurement, except in gift we discuss. Right. Now, offering inducement, now see this word, please write it. Inducement means you are encouraging somebody. For example, now accountant of a company can give a job offer to the auditor and say, join our company, because accountant knows this audit is going to highlight issue. That is called an inducement, right. And then professional competence. Now, see, this is an important topic again, right. Now, professional competence and due care. You should be qualified means competence, and up to date. Due care means you have to follow the standard. For example, your boss says you have to prepare consolidated accounts before Saturday. You have got 3 days, and there is lot of time pressure, and information is not there, nobody to support, and then definitely your console reports may not be good, and that those are actually threats. Therefore, when you are under pressure, when you do not have resources, you should not. Safeguard is what? Ask additional time to make sure you do that job, right. And then See, that is what I said, safeguards. See, in this case safeguards are advice, training, ensure you have adequate time, get in the help, you consult. If your boss is putting lot of pressure, you may want to consult somebody. And the last part of the chapter is where we discuss deontology and teleology. I said deontological is a Greek word that says duty to do always right thing, right. There is a duty irrespective of the consequences you have to do. Teleological means based on the consequence, and then we discuss AAA approach, and there is an example for AAA approach which you can go through. And I think with that we can conclude our session. I am sure I have spent a fair amount of time, because out of the list given to me, as you know, difficult topics students face, and I have recognized ethics definitely going to be difficult if you take this as a highly theoretical subject. But this session, if you watch carefully and understand this theory, I am sure any MCQs you will be able to answer. With that, we bring this session to the end. Thank you very much.